Welcome to the Wind Sustainability Series. This is episode number 1, Dispatch. In this video, I will share with you how decisions at the time of dispatch can reduce the fuel consumption and CO2 emissions. We will look at two areas of optimization. Firstly, the aircraft weight via the fuel and water quantities, and secondly, the MEL and CDL logged items. Clearly, reducing aircraft weight is one important measure with an immediate effect on the fuel burn and CO2 emissions. So, it is important to carefully monitor it and to limit it as much as possible. The following table indicates the reduction of fuel burn and CO2 emissions for all aircraft types based on a 100 kg weight reduction. Now we are going to see the advantages achieved by determining the required quantity of fuel and water. As you know, the weight of any extra fuel will increase fuel consumption. Before going further with fuel quantity optimization, we would like to remind that the first driver to carry extra fuel remains the safety. Carrying extra fuel that is not necessary may ruin other fuel savings initiatives and impacts cost of the flight. Therefore, the flight crew must determine and monitor the necessary fuel quantity at departure based on accurate and consistent data, as for example, the weather, the performance factor, the optimum flight level, or the average wind speed, etc. Efficient flight planning ensures flight crew confidence that the fuel reserves will be intact on arrival. This can reduce tendencies to load extra fuel whilst not compromising the safety of the flight. Now, let's take a look at fuel tankering. We know that carrying extra fuel, and so extra weight, will burn more fuel and generate more CO2. So why carry more fuel than needed to reach the next destination? In some cases, fuel tankering helps to reduce costs when fuel is more expensive at the destination. For sure, fuel-saving initiatives are often compromises. In order to determine the real advantages of fuel tankering, don't forget to take into account the effects on the reduced engine derate at takeoff, the flight profile, the increased wear and tear on the wheels and brakes, the cost of extra CO2 generation with the application of the Corsia regulation since 2019, etc. Some operators carefully study the real quantity of water used during the flights. Then, they are able to adapt the quantity of loaded water to the real aircraft requirements, according to the route, the number of passengers, and the global flight conditions. For example, on long-range flights, it enables the saving of several hundred kilograms of fuel or CO2 emissions. Now, let's take a look at the fuel penalties that are induced by an inoperative item or a missing part of the aircraft. The MEL lists the aircraft equipment that may be inoperative for a limited period of time, under specific conditions, while maintaining an acceptable level of safety. Here, in this MEL item, the flight level limitation to flight level 300 results in an increase in fuel consumption. This will be taken into account when the item is selected in the EFB for performance computation. The CDL in the flight manual enables the aircraft to be dispatched with missing secondary airframe or engine parts. For this CDL item, the fuel consumption increase is defined as a percentage, 0.47%. So getting to grips with fuel economy and dedicated ISI articles available on Airbus World provide a list of all F320, F330 and F350 MEL and CDL items that induce a significant increase in the fuel consumption. Now, you can see 3 examples of these MEL items: the avionics blower fan items, the wing anti-ice control valve item, and finally, the auto control of the mask man-on push button item. In the second table, you can see 3 examples of CDL items that have an impact of fuel penalty. Here, the ram air outlet flap item, the nose landing gear main door item, and finally, the wingtip fence item. Additional fuel used and additional CO2 emissions are provided for 1 flight hour for a specific aircraft model and mission. If necessary, we recommend that you complete your own performance computation to determine more accurate values applicable to your specific operations. Associated repairs of these items or parts should be performed at the earliest opportunity in order to limit excessive fuel burn and, of course, to maintain a good aircraft condition. To sum up, keep in mind 2 main recommendations for the dispatch phase. Firstly, compute accurate fuel and water quantities. Secondly, repair MEL and CDL logged items and parts at the earliest opportunity. Thank you for watching this episode of the WIN Sustainability series. Stay tuned for more on how to reduce fuel consumption and CO2 emissions during the other phases of the flights.